Good day, one and all, and to one and all, a good day. My name is Lewis, also known as Speedy, welcoming you back to Forza Motorsport 7. Now, recently, if you've been keeping up with my channel, you will have seen that I did a Hyundai Veloster shootout between the first generation Hyundai Veloster Turbo, the second generation Hyundai Veloster Turbo, and what is, to my knowledge, the first generation Hyundai Veloster N. And that got me thinking. A lot of people tend to talk about classic American muscle cars, the Ford Mustang Boss 302 that you are seeing on your screen currently being no exception. And I thought, well, a lot of people talk about the classic era Mustangs, the classic era Dodge Chargers, the classic era Dodge Challengers, the classic era Chevrolet Camaro, and all that. Hey, even the Chevy El Camino gets a shout out every once in a while. But that got me thinking. Still, it's very dangerous when I think, can you tell? But yes, it got me thinking, what about some of the American muscle cars that seem to get overshadowed a little bit by effectively the muscle car trifecta in relation to the car manufacturers. Once again, I'm referring to Ford, Chevrolet, and Dodge. And so that's exactly what I'm going to be doing. Over the course of this mini-series, 5 classic American muscle cars are going to be tackling 5 different tracks that are all based in the US on Forza Motorsport 7. These tracks will include the Daytona Tri-Oval circuit, the Maple Valley Full circuit. We're also going to be stopping off at Road America, Sonoma, and Watkins Glen. I went blank there for a second, I apologise. And basically, this Boss 302 Mustang is going to be setting a benchmark time for the 5 muscle cars that I've selected to try and beat. Will they succeed? Will they fail? Who knows? Time will tell. I think we ought to get started. Our first track is going to be the Daytona Tri-Oval circuit, where, if you watch the NASCAR, was where they held the first race of the 2018 Monster Energy Sprint Cup season. I think this is going to be interesting. So the first car to kinda sorta go around the Daytona Tri-Oval was the Boss Mustang 302. Mainly just to set a benchmark time. Here are a quick few stats. 290 brake horsepower, 290 foot-pounds of torque, 3,250 pounds in weight. The benchmark time that the car set on this, its third lap around the Daytona Tri-Oval, was a 1 minute 0.752. Is that a good benchmark time? I don't know. I would like to point out, though, for pretty much the entirety of the end of the first lap, the entirety of the second lap, and in turn the entirety of this, its third and final lap, I was buzzing the limiter in 4th gear at around about 148 miles per hour, so I don't suppose that's too bad, really. Anyways, bring on the main competition. The second car to tackle the Daytona Tri-Oval, if you can hear me over its god-awfully loud rev limiter, was the AMC Javelin AMX. This car was completely and utterly shit. I can see why people don't talk about this car anymore. Incredibly low redline. It's only got a redline of 5,000 RPMs, and if you drive this thing flat out like I was doing, you'll hit that redline in 4th gear at about 120 miles per hour. The car will then push itself to about 127, 128 before it just starts bouncing off the rev limiter. Anyways, quick few statistics about the car. 330 brake horsepower, 430 foot-pounds of torque, 3,445 pounds in weight. The time it had to beat, the benchmark time, was a 1 minute 0.752. The AMC Javelin AMX did it in a time of 1 minute 9.953, which is a split of 9 minutes 9.201 seconds. This car was absolutely awful. The second car to try and tackle the Ford Mustang's benchmark time was the Buick GSX. 360 brake horsepower on tap, 510 foot-pounds of torque, with a maximum weight of 3,874 pounds. As you can hear, I was also hitting the rev limiter on this car as well. This car, unbeknownst to me, only had a 3-speed transmission and sort of topped out at around 147 miles per hour. Anyways, the benchmark time it had to beat was a 1 minute 0.752. The Buick GSX did it in a time of 1 minute 2.139 seconds, which makes it, what is that? That's about 1.6 seconds slower. At least it was faster than the Javelin, what can I say? The third car to try and tackle the Boss Mustang 302 lap time was the Dodge Coronet Super B. Let's just quickly rattle off some statistics. 425 brake horsepower, 490 foot-pounds of torque, 3,420 pounds in weight. The lap time it had to beat was a 1 minute 0.752 seconds. The Dodge Coronet Super B did it in a time of 56.9 seconds. I kid you not. This thing had a 4-speed manual transmission, which is a massive improvement over what the Buick GSX had, and it had a rev limiter of 7,500 RPM, which means I actually got it up to, briefly, 161 miles per hour. This is it. This is now the car that everything else has to try and beat. This ought to be interesting. The second to last car to try and tackle the Daytona Tri-Oval was the 1970 Mercury Cougar Eliminator, and as you can probably hear, I was once again buzzing the rev line, which was at about 125 miles per hour in this car. I somehow managed to find something that's worse than the Javelin. I'm not even sure how that's physically possible. That said, the time it had to beat was a 56.9 seconds, set by the Dodge Coronet Super B. The Mercury Cougar Eliminator did it in a time of 1 minute 11.258 seconds, which, according to my mathematics, makes it 14.642 seconds slower than the Dodge Coronet Super B. I'm not even sure how it's possible that I found something that's worse than the Javelin. I might as well pointlessly rattle off the statistics before I forget. 335 brake horsepower, 440 foot-pounds of torque, 3,435 pounds in weight, and one massive shit of a disappointment. The fifth and final car to try its luck around the Daytona Tri-Oval was the Pontiac GTO The Judge. As you can hear once again, I am buzzing the rev limiter at 7,000 RPM at about 138 miles per hour. At least it was quicker than the GSX. That's the only silver lining that I can think of. Let's just quickly rattle off some statistics. 365 brake horsepower, 445 foot-pounds of torque, 3,623 pounds in weight. The time it had to beat was a 56.9 seconds, set by the Dodge Coronet Super B. The Pontiac GTO The Judge did it in a time of 1 minute 4.7 seconds, which makes it 7.8 seconds slower than the Dodge Coronet. I guess it could have been worse. Could have been the Javelin. So, there we have it. The Dodge Coronet Super B was the fastest car around the Daytona Tri-Oval. It's more than safe to say that I'm kinda sort of not surprised, mainly for the fact that this is thus far working off of the same logic that the Hyundai Veloster Shootout worked off of. That logic being that the car with the most horsepower is slowly proving to be the quickest vehicle selected. Part 2, or round 2, sorry, is going to see us at Maple Valley, which I'm really excited for, because the only other Forza game that I have owned where I've driven around Maple Valley was Forza Motorsport 2. So this has kind of sort of been a long time coming for me personally. I'm genuinely looking forward to this. That said, thank you all so much for watching. If you liked what you saw here, please do make sure to leave a like, a comment down below so that you can voice your opinion on the cars that I have selected. That's going to be it for round 1 of the Forgotten Muscle Championship. Thank you all so much for watching, and until round 2, take care guys. Take care.